Welcome back to Just Chattin', and this is the series of videos we do on Thursday and Sunday evenings just for our own entertainment. As you can see, Audie is with us, and by the way, for those of you who are not aware, Audie does have a clipped ear. He had originally been a stray, and he was nosing around looking for food, and I had him sent out to have him neutered. And when they neuter strays, they clip the ear so that if they turn up somewhere else, someone is going to know immediately that at one point in time, the stray has been neutered. But Audie had gotten into a really nasty fight with heaven only knows what. I got theories on that, which I'll share in a moment. But so he needed medical attention as well as neutering. And when he came back, he decided that he wasn't leaving. I released him. There you go, you're on the patio, do your own thing. And he simply walked right through the front door, walked over the dog. By the way, she was a pit bull, hops over her, settled on a chair and said, "This is where I live now. After what you took from me, you owe me a home." And I said, yeah, okay. But yes, that's the story of Audie's little clipped ear. Yes, isn't it? So he is with us for a change. Oh, and I said I would mention what I think he may have been fighting with. There is a large deceased possum on the other side of the street. Now, both of the families on the other side of the street are elderly people. We have an elderly couple in their late 80s. We have an elderly woman in her early 80s. I do not think either of them are in any position to go out and scoop up deceased possums and dispose of them. So I think it's going to fall to me to deal with it. And because, hey, it could have been a traffic accident. I keep telling myself that. But in all likelihood, it was my bad boy who was responsible for that. Because, yes, he doesn't care how much bigger it is than he is. He will go after anything. I have watched him. I swear this is the truth. I've watched him try to chase horses. The horses don't go anywhere. The horses just ignore him. But it doesn't keep him from trying. He is the alpha male of the neighborhood. All right, we're going to take a quick break for the intro, very short, and we'll be right back. So, media attention has been largely focused on the fall of the House of York, Andrew and Fergie, and to a lesser extent, Beatrice and Eugenie. I can't help but wonder about the timing of all of this. Now, don't worry, I'm not getting a tinfoil hat or anything like that. But bear with me a moment. Let's take a very short trip in the Wayback Machine. This one is so short, we can actually program the Wayback Machine with an egg timer. So, let's go back a month. Now, a month ago, as many of you will remember with sorrow, I'm sure, especially our friends in the UK, the Duchess of Kent passed away. And this was Catherine. She was much beloved. She was an elegant and dignified woman who was known for her philanthropy, her charity, and things like in her retirement, going out and teaching music at schools, just for the sake of educating children. Bless her heart for that. So the funeral was a very public event. Now, Andrew had previously agreed, and we're going back 5 years. This is in the wake of the BBC interview when his connection with Epstein and Virginia Giuffre and all of that, when that first broke. He agreed to step back from public duties, public life. He was going to go off and live in semi-retirement in his massive 30-room house. By the way, he holds a lease for that, that I believe runs until 2078. Wow. And the place is worth, they say, $30 to $40 million. But it hasn't been on the market in so long, I don't think anyone can make a full judgment on that. It could be worth much more. Massive, massive property where he is apparently there all by himself with his ex-wife, and he will not leave. It's like, nope, that's his. He's got it. He's keeping it. Interesting. Andrew had agreed to retire from public life. But the funeral of the Duchess of Kent showed that he went back on that completely. He did not simply attend the funeral quietly, discreetly. No, right up the front steps in front of crowds with Fergie. Frankly, Fergie is 65, by the way. Fergie was wearing a dress that was split halfway up to her coochie. And I got to tell you, I found that a pretty revolting sight. And it's not just because Fergie was never a great beauty. And at 65, she is not even close to the cute kid she was 40 years ago. Yeah, a 65-year-old woman with a slit in her skirt that far up is extremely unbecoming and absolutely inappropriate for a funeral. I thought, oh, I don't even have words for the horror I felt when I saw that. But it wasn't just, we are going to make a public appearance being escorted from a limousine in front of the crowds. You know, everything. You would have thought it was one of Nutmeg's events if the paparazzi had been called into witness. But yeah, it was a definitely PR moment. But then afterward, when everyone was leaving, Andrew was again front and center with William, with Charles, with Catherine, photographed with all of them, essentially making a public statement that he had been welcomed back into the fold. You know, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, that's what the picture told us, except for one tiny little thing, which is I don't think he counted on William, who didn't even trouble to hide his disgust. William was looking at Andrew as if to say, "Get thee behind me, thou minion of Satan." And I mean, it was just like, you know, you're Epstein's flunky, don't come near me. I thought that was wonderful. I was extremely pleased to see that William did not do the politically expedient thing and slap a smile on his face and pretend that all was well in Delulu land. No, he made his feelings abundantly clear. Anyone who saw the look on his face knew how William felt about this. I'm not sure Andrew does, but I figure in time he will get the message. That was a month ago. And in the 4 weeks since then, look at everything that's come out. Now, I would have to say, sure, the timing could be pure coincidence. Coincidences do happen, no matter how often the conspiracy theorists will tell you they don't. But yes, coincidences happen. But do I think this is a coincidence? No. I think somebody highly placed either in the media or in the palace or perhaps in some other aspect of the government, either in the UK or the US, because they are sifting through Epstein's papers in the US. Who knows? Maybe it was a collaboration. I think somebody looked at that picture, or many of those pictures, because there were a lot of them, of William's face, and said, we can jump on this. We can jump on this. We can make sure that we take Andrew down for good. And I think that may be what's happening. I think it's possible that, and this is just my speculation, that people were willing to let the Andrew Epstein connection fade into the background if Andrew was going to fade into the background himself, if he was going to retire from public life. I think the people who knew the extent of the story were willing to say, okay, we don't need to beat him to death. He's out of the way. Let it go. Just why flog a dead horse? But I think when it became very clear that Andrew was actively reasserting himself into the public arena, because remember, this wasn't a family event. This was a highly public funeral of a much beloved Duchess. So this was bound to be something of a media event. And I'm sorry that anyone's funeral would be a media event, but as I say, she was much beloved. Of course it was going to be a media event. The people would want to be participants in some way, even if it's just by watching it on the telly. And I think when Andrew inserted himself, as he clearly did, with his ex-wife in tow, that is so bizarre, I can't get over that one, with his ex-wife in tow, with her skirt slit, that was creepy and disgusting. They look at that, and I think people in the shadows, people who make these things happen, said, no, we have got to slap him back into the background again. And I think that is how this information got released. My personal opinion. But do I think it's connected? Do I think the release of this information is a direct result of the public seeing Andrew on the church steps attempting to talk to William? He was talking to Charles. William seemed to want to do nothing more than spit on him. So good for William. But do I think those two events are connected? Yeah, I do. Because I think that people understood that Andrew fading into the shadows was only temporary. He agreed to do it. It was something he chose. It wasn't chosen for him. Same thing, by the way, with not using his title. He chose, wasn't chosen for him. So could we see a repetition of this? Yes, we could. But I don't think we're going to, because I think whoever is in the shadows releasing this information knows this too. Because let's face it, if I'm so far on the outside, if I can figure it out, I'm pretty sure they can. And I think they are going to release more and more information until they have either shamed Andrew to the point where he can never come back, or shamed Charles to the point where he has to do something about it. That's my theory. I don't know. Time will tell. I have no idea if I am right. This is speculation. That's all it is. But that's what it looks like to me. And we have to keep in mind there's another layer of this, which is Andrew and Fergie are not in this rehabilitation effort by themselves. They are actively aided and abetted by their daughters. The York girls, and by the way, the media headlines are now saying, oh, the poor innocent York girls are being impacted by their parents' wrongdoing. Yeah, I am so not so sure that is a correct interpretation. I will say this. I think their devotion to their parents is admirable. That is a virtue. But I also think that their active efforts to assist their parents in reintroducing them back into British society is not doing anybody any good. I really don't think it's doing the York girls any good, and long term, I don't think it's doing their parents any good, because I think whoever it is that has the dirt on their parents will continue to spill it until Andrew and Fergie are permanently in the background. So, yeah, what can I say? But make no mistake about it, Beatrice and Eugenie have been actively fostering Fergie's readmission into polite society. They invite her to Royal Ascot all the time. And keep in mind, Fergie is a woman who publicly acknowledged that she had offered to put people in touch with Andrew in exchange for a bag of cash. And as I say, she acknowledged that. It wasn't just, oh, they said it, oh, they had it on film, oh, maybe it was doctored. She was like, nope, I did it. And I give her credit for that. I really do. I give her credit for that. I can't give her credit for very much, but yeah, she did not try to weasel her way out of it. When she was caught, she just threw up her hands and said, guilty. But by the same token, her daughters, who know she's taken money from a convicted sex offender, who know she attempted to take money in order to facilitate an off-the-books contact with Andrew for business purposes, which is certainly unethical. I don't know what British law has to say about this. Frankly, I don't. U.S. law would prohibit this. I don't know about British law because obviously their politics are different. But unethical, immoral, definitely. Illegal, possibly, I don't know. But the York sisters know this. And still, they are attempting to allow their mother to wipe her dirty hands clean on their skirts. That's the best way to put it. I can't say I think very much of that, but the fact is, as long as Andrew and Fergie have two daughters with an entree into British society, the door's still open for them because those girls will keep it open. They will keep their foot in that door to let Mommy and Daddy through with them. Again, it's admirable that they are so devoted to their parents, but it's morally reprehensible in light of what their parents have been accused of doing. And quite frankly, even though Andrew is in complete denial, as I say, Fergie's admitted it, and I don't see how anyone can fight the amount of evidence against Andrew. I mean, he can because he's delusional, but can a rational person say that he is not guilty of the things he's been accused of? I would say no. I would say no. I would say the evidence is very much against him. So, do I think there was a coincidence? No. My theory is the latest eruption of the Epstein scandal was to ensure that Andrew and Fergie are pushed back to the sidelines. I'm also, this is my Chriswell Predicts moment. Oh, and by the way, I've been right most of the time. I actually looked at some old videos, I've been right most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. I think more dirt is going to emerge because I think whoever it is that is responsible for this, for releasing the information, keep in mind, the responsibility lies with Andrew and Fergie. I don't think the people who are releasing the information are in any way responsible for the wrongdoing. They are not. They are whistleblowers, and I believe that's a good thing. But I do think that the people responsible for publicizing the information are probably holding more information. And I think they will probably continue to drop bombshells until such time as Andrew and Fergie are permanently sidelined. Sidelined so definitively that there is no turning back for them. I certainly hope that the rumors that William, when he eventually takes the throne, is going to remove titles from all non-working royals. I hope those rumors are true, because I do think that he would be very stupid if he trusted his York cousins. Let me just put it that way. And I don't think William's that stupid. He definitely seems to be one of the brainier members of his family. And quite frankly, the Windsors in general are a pack of idiots. They really are. There's no question about it. We are a long way from the glory days of the wildly brilliant Tudors. What happened to that family? There was a time when everywhere you looked, there was a Tudor with a genius-level mind, speaking 9 languages, playing the harpsichord. Yeah, what went wrong? Truly. Because now, well, regardless, I do think William is one of the brighter of the bunch. And I hope that he does follow through. Do I think it would be stupid of him to trust the York cousins? Absolutely. Because you can already see clearly what they are doing. They have worked hard to rehabilitate their mother's public image. Nice as daughters, but as members of the British royal family, no, that's not okay. All right, I'm going to stop it here because I think I've pretty much covered everything I want to cover. Very quickly, because lately I have been wearing Cambridge and Oxford sweatshirts, just wanted to remind our friends overseas, yeah, we got some universities worth paying attention to here too. We are going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out. I hope to see you all next time. In the meanwhile, have a terrific day.